Q1 of 2026 has come and gone, and so that means it's time for our first TPT income report. Hello YouTube fam, it's Chantel, the face behind the teacher mindset, and welcome back to another video. I'm excited to be able to share with you what my store's growth has looked like for the first 3 months of the year. And so I'm just going to start by sharing a little bit about what you can expect from today's video. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing what the sales, the earnings, and the number of units sold in my store from January through March of 2026. And we're also going to be comparing that to what those numbers were from 2025. I'm also going to share the top 3 resources that sold in each of the first 3 months of this year. I do want to clarify this just so that everyone is aware that the number that I'm going to share for the sales represents the total amount that I made by selling all of the resources, and the earnings are going to be the number that I take home after TPT takes its cut. I do also want to share that I am a premium seller on the TPT platform, and that means that I pay the yearly subscription so that I can take home a higher percent of the sales from my store. TPT does give you the option to not be a premium seller, meaning you don't pay like that yearly. I think it's like 60 something dollars. However, if you aren't a premium seller, they are going to take a much larger cut of every sale that you make. And so if you are a new seller, you might just want to weigh out your options as to whether or not you want to be a non-premium or premium seller. I mean, I'm at the point where it just makes sense that I am a premium seller because the amount I pay for 1 year, I make that back in the first month of the year. So it makes sense for me, but I do want to make sure that I give that little caveat because there is a difference on the platform of being a premium and non-premium seller. The last thing I want to share before we get started is to remind you to please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, make sure you turn on that notification bell so that you are alerted anytime I post a new video. All right, I am so excited to jump into the numbers, so let's get to it. For the month of January, I am going to share first what my numbers were for January of 2025. And so in January of 2025, I made a total of $225 in sales, which amounted to $180 in earnings. So again, sales is the amount that I got from selling the products. $180 is what I actually took home. And for January of 2025, I sold a total of 37 resources. So those 37 resources totaled up to 225. I took $180. So that was January of last year. And now for January of 2026, I made a total of $465.50 in sales, with a take home or earnings of $372.40. And I sold a total of 63 resources. So January was definitely, as you can see, as we go down, the biggest jump between the 2025 and 2026. That is a total increase of $240.50 in sales, $192.40 in earnings, and an additional 26 resources sold from 2025 to 2026. So I was very, very excited to see that. I think in one of my past videos, I had talked about it, or actually in my January video when I talked about coming back to the platform, I had surpassed that $225 in sales, which is what I made last year, halfway through the month. So I was very excited. I knew it was going to be a great month when we were kind of already reaching that milestone, within the first 10 to 15 days of the month. So very, very happy to see that. And I also want to share what the top 3 resources were. So for this year, January 2026, my top 3 resources are, no surprise, my Dolce Pre-K Sight Words practice sheets. That was the #1 selling resource for that month. The second highest selling resource was my SiteWords practice sheet bundle, which includes those Dolch pre-K SiteWords practice sheets. And the number 3 selling resource in my store were the Dolch kindergarten SiteWords practice sheets. So my top 2 selling practice sheets individually were in the top 3, and then the bundle was also in that top 3. So I talk about it all the time in my videos. SiteWords are the biggest resources that I sell, or the resource that I sell that makes the most earnings. And so I think it was very fitting that the top 3 resources are also centered around SiteWords. All right, we are now going to jump to February. So I'm going to start with what we look like in 2025. So for February of 2025, I had a total of $158.30 in sales, which amounted to a $125.69 in earnings, or take home. And I sold a total of 25 resources. And for this year of February in 2026, I have $252.70 in sales, which is $202.16 in earnings, and a total of 31 resources sold. And so we have an increase of $94.40 in sales, an increase in $76.47 in earnings, and 6 additional resources sold. So again, great to see. We have an increase in February from last year to this year. Not as big of an increase as it was in January, but that's okay. We always just want to continue to make improvements. So very happy to see that. For our top 3 resources in February, you pretty much guessed it. It is the same 3 resources that sold in January. They've just flip-flopped in order. So the number 1 selling resource in February was the SiteWords Practice Sheets bundle. The second highest resource in February, or selling resource in February, were the Dolch pre-K SiteWords practice sheets. And then holding steady at number 3 again for the second month in a row is the Dolch kindergarten SiteWords practice sheets. So once again, those 3 resources were the top 3 selling resources, number 1 and number 2, just flip-flopped places for this month. But once again, we're holding steady with the same top 3. And for our March income report, we're going to start with 2025. So for March of 2025, I had $179 in sales with $142.09 in earnings and 28 resources sold. And now for 2026, we had $211 in sales, $168.80 in earnings, and 32 resources sold. So that is a increase of $32 in sales, which amounts to an increase of $26.71 in earnings, and an additional 4 resources sold for the month. So again, not as big of a jump as we had in January, but that's okay. We always want to continue to trend, as I mentioned, in the right direction, and we are doing that. So for the top 3 resources for the month of March, we do have a little bit of a mix-up. The number 1 selling resource in March was the Dolch pre-K SiteWords practice sheets. The number 2 selling resource in my store was the Dolch kindergarten practice sheets, SiteWords practice sheets. And breaking into the top 3 for the month of March, in third was my editable daily attendance tracker. So that kind of sold more than my bundle did, which is interesting because, you know, bundles you only have to select 1 or 2 because they're so high, such a high ticketed item. Those usually make the list, but not for March. For March, we sold a ton of editable daily attendance trackers. And so I did want to share this little tidbit. So I did the math to look at all of the sales from the 3 months and all of the earnings for the 3 months. And those top 3 resources that sold a lot, the Dolch pre-K and kindergarten SiteWords practice sheets, as well as the bundle, accounted for 67% of the earnings in Q1. So I'm totally okay with that. I'm not really picky or selective with which products sell in my store. I'm just happy that teachers are finding something in my store that they are really enjoying. But we kind of knew that that was going to shape up to be that way. I talk about it all the time. So just wanted to kind of share that those 3 items accounted for 67% of the earnings. Now, I shared the top 3 resources for each of those months, but I do want to give a little bit of an honorable mention. Some of the other resources that sold, some of the other resources that I sold in my store for the month was the editable daily attendance tracker, as we just mentioned. I did sell some TPT seller templates. I sold a few of my digital center slides. I think I sold the, for February, there were some for Valentine's Day. And then in March, there were some for spring that were sold. I sold a Lunar New Year themed craft activity. I made some sales with my activity that goes with the book, Brown Bear, What Do You See? We also have some sales for Guess the Secret CVC word. We also have some sales for Guess the Secret sight words activities. Some number posters were sold. I sold some Google Keep headers, and I also sold a few sight words assessment trackers. So a little bit more of a variety than I think I may have had in the past. Again, that's just me going off of what I tend to see. I'm sure if I did a little bit of a breakdown and some investigations of what is actually selling for each month or each quarter, I could see what the comparison is, but there were some other sales that were in there. But again, we wanted to just kind of cover the top 3. I did also want to share that I only have this for the month of March because it changes at the end of or at the beginning of each new month. TPT updates your little seller profile with where you are in terms of percentile of other sellers on the platform. I did not write that down for what it was for January and February, but at the end of March, my store was in the 90th percentile, which is meaning that my store sells or makes more than 90% of the other stores that are on TPT. And so I just wanted to share that for a little bit of transparency because I'm not some super big store on the platform, and I know there's a lot of controversy around like, is TPT like oversaturated, and will teachers actually make money if they're just getting started? I mean, a lot of people are going to tell you different things, yes or no. I just wanted to kind of share this to provide a little bit of transparency. I think I had a total of about sorry, I'm doing the math here. Bear with me. So I had a total of about $900 in sales for the first 3 months of the year, and I'm in the 90th percentile. So take with that whatever it is that you will. I just always want to be transparent with how I'm doing and share all these numbers because I think transparency is key. Again, I am very happy with these numbers because I think that they accurately reflect the amount of time and effort that I'm putting into my store right now. And so again, just want to share that with you. I think each person will make their own determination of, wow, she's in the 90th percentile and that's what she's making. Like, is there room for me to be in this market? Yes or no? I want to leave that decision up to you, but again, want to provide some transparency. I also just want to share a couple of key takeaways that I have taken away from seeing these numbers and doing some reflection. And as I mentioned, overall, I am very happy with the sales in my store. I am seeing a slight increase year over year. I'm not growing at the rate as some other TPT sellers that you might see that post a little bit more consistently than I do on Teachers Pay Teachers or that have like a bigger audience on all of their other platforms. Because I don't have that audience, I'm not investing the type of time that they are, and I'm not in the classroom the way that I used to be when I first started my Teachers Pay Teachers journey. And so I think with this TPT income being one of 4 income sources that I have in the month, and it being the 4th income source, I think the amount that I am making, again, an extra $900 coming in for the first 3 months of the year as just extra income, I am totally happy with that. I've been looking at this TPT journey over the last several years after transitioning out of the classroom and really finding a balance as being something that I am finding joy in continuing, finding joy in sharing with you all, and the income that comes from it is just a byproduct of the joy that I'm experiencing. So for me, there's all smiles, all thumbs up, growth across the board. So there's nothing but wonderful things that I have to say in terms of my takeaway. Another takeaway that I want to share is that I'm really happy that I am doing these TPT income reports. I mean, it's not enough for me to share on a monthly basis. I think that would be too short of a video. So I think having this quarterly video is like a sweet spot. But with doing this, I really do want to share again the transparency of what it is like to be a smaller, or I consider a smaller seller on the platform, and what that looks like in terms of, hey, if you've only got 5 to 7 hours a week to put into this, if it's not teaching is not necessarily your first career path right now, you don't have all of the content that you're seeing with teachers that are posting and things like that, what you can actually achieve by simply just having good products, taking your time, doing a little bit of transparency and putting yourself out there of what you can actually make on the platform. And I'm not a 4 seller, I don't make 4 figures or 5 figures in a month. I think the most I've made in a month in terms of sales was about $700. So I've never reached that like $1,000 mark. I hope that, somewhere down the future, I would love for that to be a reality. But again, you can be happy, you can find joy in simply being where you are, appreciating where you are, whether it's 1 sale that you had in a month or whether it's 63 sales that you had in a month. I've really enjoyed this process all throughout, whether it was 1 sale or whether it was 100. I do also want to share a little bit of vulnerability because I watch other creators and TPT sellers and their income reports, and there are teachers out there who from 1 year jump to $400 in sales to $2,000 in sales, and they have these like massive 150% increases and things like that. And those have been at different parts of my journey sources of motivation, but also sometimes sources of like discouragement. And it's like, man, I'm doing this, like, am I making a difference? And as I've just continued to share with you all, find the love of this community, even though it's still super small, I'm finding joy in that. Like, I love the teacher mindset. It is my little piece of creativity and outlet and beauty. And every time I see that teacher that leaves a comment of how that resource really helped them, I am learning to find that there is joy in my journey. And so with this, as much as I hope that this could be a motivator to you, I really do hope that it doesn't become a source of discouragement for sellers that are a little bit newer, because again, wherever you are in your journey, I want you to be able to find the joy in those sales, and just knowing that whether it's 1 sale or it's 20 sales, that you did truly make a difference in a teacher's life, whether it helped them to cut down on the time, whether it was a resource that they could have never imagined themselves creating, and it really helped their students. Whatever it is that you do, I hope that you're able to find joy in your journey. And that brings us to the end of another video. I hope you really enjoyed this first TPT income report and reflection of 2026. And I'm excited to be back with you in 3 months so that we can recap what the Q2 looked like. So please be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and make sure you turn on that notification bell so that you can be alerted when the Q2 video is up on this platform. You are a TPT seller. I would love for you to go in the comments and share what your sales have looked like for the first quarter of this year. No matter if it's $1 or if it's $100, every single teacher on this TPT platform deserves to be celebrated. So I want to celebrate with you. So please, please, please comment below, what have your sales looked like for the first quarter of 2026. Thank you again for watching this video. Thank you again for being a part of this wonderful journey that I'm taking, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Bye.